Have you connected the perplexity AI mechanism module? Yes, it's connected. But what does it do? What does it do? Let's actually test out this perplexity AI, see what it does. We said that it's an AI powered search engine. What does that mean? Well, remember, we're building a researcher, so we want it to be able to research. So what's a better researcher than something that's an AI powered search engine, has the entire internet at its disposal with artificial intelligence? It's pretty good for a researcher. So what we should see is that you have your connection set up here. It's added, okay? We're gonna test if it works. We're gonna see different models. So these are different models. You got the llama models. So you have smaller versions that can run faster. We're just gonna roll with the regular sonar model because we're posting once a day. It doesn't have to be every like 2 seconds, bop, 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 bop. But of course you can play with these depending on what your outputs are. And remember, when you distill the LLM, the large language model, or you distill the AI search engine, the data behind it, you're gonna get it to run faster. So you can take a different version that's gonna run faster, but you're gonna sacrifice the quality of the output. And that becomes a type of comparison and consideration later on, especially as you develop more complex models and more complex scenarios in order to maximize your output. Because sometimes speed's more important, sometimes accuracy is important. I'm not saying it's one or the other. I'm talking about the level of priority behind them, okay? Because of course they both need to have a minimum amount of decency in order to have something that works. So we're gonna choose sonar. Now you see this messages. If we add an item in the message, we see content. Content is what we can actually input as a prompt. So we can pass in information into our modules in Makecom, and that basically acts as a prompt for our AI to go and do something. If I click on it, for example, notice how we have all this ickety-bickety stuff. I'm going to call it ickety-bickety for all you non-programmers. But really what this is are operators, keywords, functions, and variables. Now, this is all empty because it's not taking in any JSON data. It doesn't have a schema. There's no key value pairs. These are just keys. These are just conditional statements or programming keywords. What do I mean by that? That's going to make a lot more sense once we start building out the brain. But all that means for now is that one thing I want you to notice, you can take these operators, like I can take this equal sign, and if I hold it, I can drag it into content and it moves the equal. So this is why it's low code. We're going to learn how we can just take code and just drag it in. And this is very powerful because then it can dynamically update the content, not just with the prompt. Like I could type something like, I want you to know that x equals 3. Tell me what x is, okay? Or now I want you to tell me what x is. This is just setting up a variable. But what we're gonna see later on, we'll have access to the dynamic variables themselves, which are gonna supercharge the prompts, and it's actually what creates the data flow and what makes these scenarios so powerful. We're gonna see it. It's okay if it's a bit confusing. But for now, I just want you to write this, move the equals in, and we'll see role. Now for role, we can switch between assistant, system, and user. The user role, which is what we're going to select here, basically is the input coming from you, the user. So the content for the user role here is I want you to know who is saying this. I'm saying it, I'm the user. So I want to switch it to the user. If you wanted to create some type of supervised learning module, you could create content role and then add the assistant underneath, which would represent the AI's response to the conversation to give it examples. And you could also provide a high-level instruction if you wanted to add a system role. Because I don't want you to get too confused to get started. And so instead, I just want you to focus now on the two final options we have underneath here. We see max tokens and temperature. Max tokens are the maximum number of words or subwords that the AI can generate. So it's important to limit this stuff. Again, when you're optimizing and you're building, if you're using this on scale, that's when it really, really matters. It helps to improve your accuracy and your efficiency, your overall energy consumption. And so if you don't touch it, it'll just leave it default and that'll be fine. So we don't have to touch it for now. And temperature is all about randomness. Temperature is basically how random versus deterministic you want the response to be. So this is always a scale. Anything in random, when you talk about randomness, if you go back to your probability course and your discrete math course, you should remember goes between 0 to 1. So it's the same thing here, where 1 is the highest, more creative and unpredictable, and 0 is going to be, 0 would be more predictable, whereas 1 is going to be more random or more creative. Actually, I notice here that they do 1.9, so maybe the scale here is actually 2. But it will always convert on its lowest form to a scale of 1. Let's just leave this for now, like this. Let's save what we've done. I just want you to just run this model. So let's click run once and see what happens. Eureka! We have a successful operation. So look at this. And you guys should be seeing this too. You should, if you've been following everything properly, have gotten a successful API completion. Take a look. We have an output here. And this basically shows the bundle, so the output, the model sonar that we used, the number that was created. We have a special ID that gets created. We see on the input, we see the message that we inputted from the role of the user. And in the output, we see choices. And if we scroll down to message, we see false and some information about false. So this false might be confusing for you, because you're going to say, hey, but Clarion, why is it saying false? Why isn't it answering whether or not x equals 3? Because I want to show you the difference. This equal sign is not actually the same as me typing and writing x equals 3. This is an operator that's verifying the truthiness of a statement or an expression. So it's checking if something is equal to something else. If we were to replace, I want to delete this for a second, and I want to say 3, I'll type in 3 equals 3, okay? And now we save these changes, and we run this once again, and we open our message. The content changes to true. We're going to see, if that's a bit confusing, we're going to see how we can leverage operators, keywords, but most importantly, the dynamic data that's being updated and changed in our flow as we continue to build. And for our final example together, I want you to go back to how we had it here, where you're going to write, I want you to know that x equals 3. Now I want you to tell me what x is. Okay, so now we're removing the operator. So we're no longer writing we're no longer writing low code. Don't get confused, not low level code, but low code. And let's save this. This should be now interpreted as prompt. If we run this with Perplexity AI, let's see what we get as a response. We see we have a message. Now the message is the content. And if we check our output of what the content message is, you've told me that x equals 3. Therefore, the value of x is 3. Guys, our Perplexity AI is not only alive and talking to us and thinking, also correct. Okay, so you should be getting this response. It doesn't have to be this, it shouldn't be this wording exactly, because this is an AI, but it should be telling you that the value of 3 is 3, and we've left the operator, and we've moved away from truthiness and into an actual expression with a prompt and a reply. This is our input of what we inputted. This is the output. Very important to have this down and understand it as we move forward from here. So let's stop here. And in the next lesson, let's actually dive deeper into prompting. And from there, we can actually create our first linked modules in this scenario together. I'll see you there. Bye-bye.